Hey everyone, so we have our 3D ball, we have our plane, we have it colored all nice, and we've given our ball a rigid body, so that's a lot. But now we've got to make that thing move. Now this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the hardest things that you're going to do in Unity. And it's definitely the hardest thing that I'm going to teach you this year. So making a 3D object move, there's just a little bit more to it than making a 2D object move. So there's a lot more calculations involved, there's a lot more stuff, but I'm going to show you how to do it today. So really quick, let's take a look at that scary code again. So at the end of the day, this is going to be the result. This is what you're going to, this is the code that you're going to have typed into the, and I'll move this over just a little bit so that you can see all of it. There we go. Yep. And so this is the code that you will inevitably type. So I'm going to bring this in kind of one line at a time and try to explain kind of what each thing is doing. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a new script. So the first thing we need to do is click on our sphere. All right. And we can hit F to focus on it. And so it's right in the center of our screen. And we're going to add this script directly to our sphere. Now this is not how we did it when we did Number Wizard, but I think it's going to help out a lot to do it this way now. So we're going to add it directly to it by going to the inspector and then going to add component. So then we're going to scroll all the way down and we're going to go to new script and we're going to call this player controller. All right, so player controller, and we're going to hit create and add. So the cool thing about doing it this way is it automatically attaches this script to our ball object. So now anything we put in this script is going to interact with our ball directly. So we have player controller. All right, and the next thing we want to do is go to our assets folder. Remember that it's always going to put the script defaultly in your assets folder. Okay, so let's double click on our assets folder onto the player controller that we just created, and it should open up MonoDevelop. And then in MonoDevelop, we are going to put in all this code that I was telling you about. Now, for this one, we're not going to use this update function that we used last time. We're going to use something a little bit different this time. It's called fixed update. Now, fixed update works pretty much the same way as update, whereas it runs everything inside every single frame. The only difference is fixed update is used whenever you're using any kind of physics. So anytime you're going to be using physics in Unity, you want to use the fixed update function rather than the update function. Okay, so that's good to know. So the next piece of code that we're going to put in, so we just need to think logically about what it is that we need. What do we need in order to make the ball move? Well, we need some kind of input, right? We're going to need some kind of input. Now, the cool thing, there's a cool little trick in Unity that I love. We know that we need input. So all we need to do is type in the word input. We're going to highlight that word, and we're going to hit Control apostrophe. All right, and this is going to automatically launch the Unity documentation for us and take us right to input. So it's going to tell us here's input, and here's everything that we can do with the input function. So we know that input by Number Wizard, we know that's how we get input from the user, but what can we do? So there's input button, there's input mouse scroll data, or delta, there's all these cool things that we can get. So the one that we're going to be looking at today is called get axis. So get axis is going to get the location of the horizontal and the vertical, if you can call it vertical, front and back axis of our object. All right, so if you want to know everything about that, all you'd have to do is find the get axis, click on it, and it's going to tell us everything we need in order to use this. It'll even give us example code on how to do this. All right, so let's go ahead and import this into our Unity, our new script that we have. So we know we need input. All right, so let's backspace that. And we know it's going to go in our fixed update function because we want it every single frame. We want to know everything, every single frame, where our user or where our player object is. All right, so we're going to grab these two pieces of code that I've already pre-typed just for time purposes. We're going to copy them. We're going to paste them in here. And I'll post that code page as well into the OHS. That way you don't have to type out everything from the video. So we have float, move horizontal. Now remember, this is we're just adding a variable here called move horizontal. Float means that it can have decimal places out behind it because we want to get the axis down to the decimal place, not just like, you know, the whole number. So we want move horizontal, and then we want that to equal input.getAxis horizontal. So it's going to give us the horizontal axis. Then we want to do float, move vertical, input.getAxis vertical. So it's going to give us the vertical. So there is one more axis. As you know, there is an up and down, but we're only going to be moving this ball left, right, front, and back. So we don't need that axis at all. Now, the next thing that we need in order to get this object to work, and this is in our Unity documentation, is going to be our vector3 variable. Now, a vector3 variable is exactly what it sounds like, all right? It has an x, y, and a z value, all right? So it's just saying that we need a point somewhere in that game world, and we know that that's going to require 3 points to get. So let's copy this and paste it in. So we got to create a vector3 value called movement. That's the name I'm going to give it. We say new vector3, which means we're establishing a new point, and then we have to establish our 3 points. Now, this gets a little deep, but just kind of try to pay attention, and as you look at it, it's going to start to make sense. So normally inside of this, we would put our x, our y, and our z value. Our x value is just going to be wherever our horizontal point is. We already established that that's called move horizontal, so we'll put that inside of our first vector value. Our y value is going to be 0. So 0.0f is how we tell it that's going to be always 0 because it's not moving. It's going to stay the same. We don't want the ball to go up and down. All right, and that is our y value. Our move vertical is going to be our z value, which is going to be the vertical value of our ball wherever in the game it is. So it's going to constantly update this vector value based off where the ball is in our game. All right, so that's what those two pieces of code are doing. So now it's starting to make a little bit more sense. It's not, it looks complicated, but it's doing very simple things. So the next thing that we need to do, and this is where your physics teachers are going to be excited that you're using your physics. We need to create a variable that represents our ball. So we can do stuff to it, right? And the way we do that is by creating a new variable. All right, and so we talked about initiating variables during Number Wizard. So we're going to initiate this variable at the top. All right, so let's copy and paste that in. We're going to put this at the top of our code. Boom. Private rigid body RB. Okay, so we're saying we need a new variable that is a rigid body, and we're going to call it RB for rolling ball. Okay, and you can name it whatever you want. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is inside of our start variable, we want to tell our game to look in the game for the rigid body. So we want you to find the rigid body, and we want you to associate that rigid body with the name RB. All right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so we put in this code. RB, which is our rigid body variable, is going to be equal to get component rigid body. So it's saying look through the game, find the rigid body, and make it RB. Okay, so we've just done that. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, sorry, I'm popping up the wrong, there's a lot of tabs open here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a force to RB. Okay, so we need to add a force to RB. Now, if we wanted to know how to add some kind of force to RB, we could just type in force in the Unity editor, and then we could hit Control apostrophe, and it would go and tell us how to add force to an object. So this is the cool thing about Unity. Anytime you want to do anything with something, try typing it into Unity, highlight it, and hit Control apostrophe. And it's always going to take you right to the documentation where you can basically build these functions from scratch. So RB is the name of our variable that holds our rigid body. Add force is a function inside of Unity that adds a force to the object. And then we need a vector3 variable as a parameter, which is movement. We've already established that. And then we're going to multiply that by our speed variable. Now, we haven't created speed yet, so let's just pretend like that's not there. Okay, so this alone will move our ball. So this code right here will allow us to move the ball around using our horizontal and vertical buttons, which are the arrow keys. Now, the only problem with this is the default speed at which your ball will move in Unity is way too fast, all right? So we need some way to edit the speed, all right? And this is really cool. This is one of my favorite things about Unity, and it has to do with variable scope. So we're going to create a new variable at the top called speed, all right? So we're going to call it speed, public float speed. So we've initialized this new variable. Now, this variable is different in that it says public. So the cool thing about Unity is any variable that says public in front of it, you can edit from the editor. from the visual editor. You don't have to come back in the code in order to edit it. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So now we want to multiply our movement by the value of speed. All right. So what that's going to do is it's going to say, hey, we don't want you to use the default movement. We want you to multiply it by our speed that we say, and then that's going to determine how fast the ball moves. All right. So let's save this monstrous piece of code that is completely done. Let's make sure we have everything we need, and we do. And let's take a look and see if this works. All right, so we have player controller. One important thing to remember, make sure that this name of your public class matches the name of the actual .cs file. That's very important. They must match. And if you do it defaultly, it should match, but just make sure. So those match. Everything is good. Control S to save. Let's exit this. All right, let's bring up Unity. And this is going to be really cool. So we see that we have all of our code here. All right, now let's click on the ball. And now we see something really neat. So under our player controller script that we just wrote, there's a new option to set the speed. And we created this by creating that public variable. So now we can create, now you can do this with size, you can do this with color, you can change everything through the editor by creating a public variable inside of the script. So let's change this to 10. That seems to be a pretty good speed for most 3D objects. I'm going to save this whole project. So File, Save Project. And with any amount of luck, when we hit play, we are going to be able to move this ball around using the arrow key. So good luck. Play. There we go. And there it goes. So this is a super exciting moment as a game designer when you do this the first time. That ball is rolling, and it's rolling at a pretty good speed. So let's go back into scene view. And remember, make sure you are always in scene view. If you're not in scene view, remember those edits will not take, and they'll actually erase everything, and that's not good. So let's change the speed just to see how this works. So let's go up to 90. So now we have speed 90. Control save. Hit play to go back into the game. And oh yeah, way too fast, right? So you saw it, like I hit the key once and it just shot right off the screen. So let's do 20 and see how that one works. Control S, go back to our game mode. And that's a little faster, and it's actually kind of hard to keep on the screen. So you can see already, just by using this little skill, you can make a pretty fun sumo type game, you know, 2 3D objects kind of pushing on each other, trying to knock them out of the screen. So you have the foundation for this game that we are now creating. You know how to move a 3D object. So this is a big step in Unity. So watch this video as many times as you need to understand this code. Remember, one of the keys to programming sometimes is just staring at the code. The longer you look at this, I promise you it'll start to make sense. So thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow we're going to go even farther with this game. We're going to add some objects into the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.